Episode 2 of The Last of Us is 30 minutes shorter, but just as good. Let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, this is David Starr from Watcher Pass, and I'm going to talk to you about The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 2, titled Infected. It premiered on HBO Max on January 22nd, 2023, and it follows directly on from the events of Episode 1, and also still seems to follow the game fairly closely. There's a little bit more that's added in at the start, but overall, this episode does feel like it follows the arc of the game, which I am very happy about because I love the game. I thought the game was really great with its storytelling, so I'm happy that this series seems to be kind of staying true to that narrative. Now, as you can tell, my hot take is, look, I definitely think you should watch it. I don't think I've had a series that I've been this excited about in a very long time. And I actually was talking to a friend who said it's nice to have like an appointment show again, like a show that you are looking forward to seeing like right when it airs. Like I was on my couch at 9 o'clock, ready to see the next episode. As soon as it went live, I started it up. It is a very, very good show, and episode 2 just kind of continues that tradition. So I'm going to tell you a little more about episode 2, go into some things I liked, things I didn't like, and then talk a little bit about the episode. There will be spoilers in the kind of talking about the episode part, but before that, you don't have to worry. I'll kind of keep it vague. But episode 2 kind of follows directly from episode 1. So you haven't seen The Last of Us episode 1, go watch it now. It is so good, and it's a great opener for this series. Episode 2 follows directly from that, but before we get into kind of the narrative part of the episode, there's some historical context that you are given. And it takes us back to the kind of first infection, the first kind of series of infections, to give you some idea of how this kind of fungal spread started. And then we go back into our Joel, Ellie, and Tess story and their quest to get Ellie out of the city of Boston. So things I liked about this episode. The first is, the Joel Ellie dynamic. We finally get a little bit more of Joel Ellie banter. We get to see their kind of very contrasting, but also complementary personalities. Joel is very serious. He has seen some stuff. He's a little somber. Ellie is a kid. She's a teenager. She's kind of rebelling. She's sarcastic. She kind of understands some of the consequences, but as a kid, she doesn't really kind of fully grasp what these consequences are. So she'll make jokes. She'll do stupid things. It's a fun dynamic to see the two of them, and it makes me really excited for the rest of the series. I really love their interaction and their banter. I think Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey do a great job as these characters. The second thing I loved, and I'm gonna like exclamation point this, the production values. This show looks fantastic. We finally get to see a little bit more of Boston, and it is really, really well done. It is strange. It's both beautiful and run down, which is exactly how the game was. You would see these beautiful scenes of the city. You'd see these kind of like these views from up high, and everything looked amazing, but also just so dilapidated because both nature and the fungus have taken over this area. So you get these really beautiful shots of what used to be an amazing city. The third thing I love about this episode is the tension. We get a little bit more tension throughout. There's some scenes where Joel, Ellie, and Tess are kind of on edge, wondering what will happen next, wondering what to do next. And that translates very well to the viewer. Like, there were definitely some moments where I was holding my breath, wondering what would happen. And it makes those scenes so much more fun to watch. And the last thing I loved about this episode, and I'll probably love about every episode, is the music. The music is just phenomenal. There's not as much of it in this episode as there was in the first episode, maybe because this episode is 30 minutes shorter, but you do have some beautiful guitar scenes, some beautiful guitar music, especially when you get some of these beautiful moments in the episode. So things I didn't like, look, again, nothing really. I'm really enjoying it. I like this series so far. I'm excited to keep watching. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about what happens in this episode. So if you don't want to know what happens in the episode, you haven't seen it yet, turn it off. I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the major things that happen and kind of, follow along in the storyline. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, turn this off, go watch it now. But otherwise, let's keep going. So like I said, at the start of this episode, you get some historical context. You're taken to Indonesia in 2003, where this professor in myology, I think is what it was called, is brought to this kind of like military hospital to examine this corpse that has been, I guess, infected with this fungus. And at first she's like, that fungus can't survive in humans. And then she goes and she sees that this human has like a bite mark on their leg, and it looks like it's either infected or full of fungus. She cuts it open, and there's like a bunch of like whitish yellow stuff in there. And then she uses some tweezers to pull out the kind of spores that are like coming out of people's mouths, and she gets a little bit distraught. And they ask, like, what can we do? What can we do about this? And she, is there a vaccine? Is there medicine? And she's like, no, there's nothing. Like, the only thing you can do is just bomb the cities. And that is prophetic because we find out later in this episode when Tess, Joel, and Ellie are talking about stuff that they did actually bomb a bunch of cities to try to stop the spread. It worked some places. It worked in Boston. There's not as many infected in Boston as I guess there are elsewhere, but it didn't work everywhere. And that's why we have the Last of Us world. So jumping forward to our friends Joel, Ellie, and Tess. Joel and Tess at the end of episode 1 discovered that Ellie had been bitten, but she'd survived and her wound had like completely healed. Normally when someone gets bitten, the fungus just spreads all over pretty instantly. But Ellie's had a little bit of spread, but it seemed to have stopped and the wound had completely healed. So Tess is kind of instantly excited about this. She's hopeful about a cure, about kind of something happening. Joel is more cautious. He doesn't trust Ellie. He's like worried, but thankfully Tess is there, so she convinces him to like keep going with the mission, that Ellie might be the key to like their future. So they have to get her to a meetup spot to meet up with some of the Fireflies who are going to take Ellie further out west. And they find out after lightly interrogating Ellie that the Fireflies' plan is to get her out to this research facility out west where they're working on a cure. They think that she might be the key to a vaccine for this overall fungal spread. So Tess is like, we gotta do this. Joel is like, but he does it anyways. He wants to get their batter and he wants to help Tess also. So as they're trying to make their way to Boston to the meetup point I think is in the capital of Boston. So they're trying to get there. They go through the Boston Museum, and at the top, as they're going into this room, the area behind them collapses. And they're like, luckily they're safe, but the area collapse causes causes some sound that draws some infected. And these infected come in, and you find out here that, essentially when they get overrun by the fungus, these spores kind of form on their head that covers their eyes. So the infected can't see, but they can hear really well. And so Joel, Ellie, and Tess try to be very quiet while these infected are in, but eventually Ellie kind of gets scared and like draws in some breath, and that causes the infected to turn to her, and Joel has to go and start shooting. And Joel kind of takes on one of them, Tess takes on another. Eventually, Joel kind of like at least gets away from one, and we have these like tense moments where Joel and Ellie are hiding from the infected, and it feels very much like the Velociraptor scene in Jurassic Park. There's one scene specifically where it feels like it was an homage to it, where Joel and Ellie are like hiding behind like a dresser or something like that, and on the other side is the infected, and you hear it kind of like looking around, like clicking and trying to like discover where they are. It felt very much like the Jurassic Park scene where they're hiding in the kitchen from the Velociraptor. I think it was supposed to be an homage to that. So in any event, after some fighting, Joel and Tess both take out their infected, and Ellie is bitten, and Joel is concerned, but Tess says it's fine. They wrap up her bandaged arm and they keep moving. So they finally make it to the Capitol, which is where they're going to go for this meetup point. But the truck that looks like it's going to take Ellie further on is empty, and there's a trail of blood going in the Capitol. They go inside, and they just see bodies everywhere. And it looks like what happened is someone got bit. That person kind of went crazy and started biting others, and it just kind of turned into essentially a bloodbath where everyone just ended up killing themselves. So now Joel is angry. He's like, this, it's over. Like, they're not going to take her. We don't get our battery. We can't escape Boston. Like, let's just go back home. But Tess seems very, very adamant that they keep going, that they have to get Ellie to the base. And eventually Ellie figures out that Tess was bitten. She's very passionate about this. And Ellie's like, oh my gosh, you were bitten. And we find out that Tess was bitten during that fight. And unlike Ellie, whose wound, healed after she got bit, there's a little bit of disfiguration, but not much. Tess's wound looks fresh and the spread is happening. So Tess is pretty much gone. So she convinces Joel. She says, Joel, you gotta, get this done. Get Ellie to that base, like complete this mission. And unfortunately, during this time, one of the dead infected in the room, one of the ones that like killed everyone, wakes up and like starts moving, and Joel goes and like shoots it in the face just to like take it out. But that causes a ripple effect. We found out earlier that, the infected are kind of all connected through essentially like fungal strands, fungal spores, things like that. They let them hear things and like get, signals and impulses from other areas. So when Joel shot that infected, either the sound or the death of that infected caused signals to be sent out to all the others. And that pulls all the other infected in Boston, or at least all the others in the vicinity, towards the capital. They hear this happening, they hear them coming, and Tess makes the decision that Joel and Ellie go, and Tess is going to hold them off. So she starts setting a trap. She opens up some barrels of like gasoline, pours it on the ground, and gets ready to blow them up. So when all the infected get in there to pursue Joel and Ellie, she can take them all out and at least make sure that Joel and Ellie aren't attacked here. So that happens. Joel and Ellie leave. It was kind of weird that Joel didn't even like really say goodbye. I mean, I guess his character, but you would think with Tess kind of staying behind to sacrifice herself, Joel would, maybe hug her, blow her a kiss, do something. They don't. They get out. They kind of do what Tess said. They leave the museum. The infected stream in. At first, Tess can't get this lighter lit, but eventually, as one of the infected comes towards her, recognizes, I think, that she's infected and goes to like exchange fungal spores from their mouth and essentially kind of like make out with her. She's finally able to get the lighter lit, throws it on the ground. The entire bottom floor blows up. All the infected die, and Joel and Ellie safely outside see this, and then Joel just kind of keeps moving Ellie towards the destination. And that's the episode. That is episode 2. It's titled Infected. You can kind of understand why. You both meet like true infected, like full fungal infected for the first time, and Tess gets infected. So dual meaning. But it premiered on HBO Max on January 22nd, 2023. Like I said, it's a great episode. The series is great. You should definitely check it out. If you don't have HBO Max, it's worth subscribing just to follow the series because it's really, really good. And it's, like I said, it's really fun to have a show to look forward to every week. Every Sunday at 9 o'clock. I'm excited to watch the next episode. So you should too. And let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments if you like this episode, if I missed anything, if I got anything wrong. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.